Coming up on the Together for Good podcast, I'm talking with Pastor Laurie Jeddeloh. Laurie is the Director of Pastoral Care at the Skyridge Medical Center, so she serves as a chaplain, but she has a long history of parish ministry as well. She's been a member here at Bethany for a long time, and we sit down to talk about all of that. What does a chaplain do all day? How was that shift coming from pastoral ministry into this work in hospital settings? It's a really great conversation. And one little disclaimer for you, you might notice we're both wearing very vibrant green shirts. That's because we recorded this on St. Patrick's Day. I know you're watching it later, but in case you wanted to know why we dressed alike, green for St. Patrick's Day. Why not? Anyways, great conversation. Can't wait to share it with you. Here we go. Welcome to the Together for Good podcast, a podcast created by Bethany Lutheran Church in Cherry Hills Village, Colorado, and hosted by me, Pastor Nate Preisinger. On Together for Good, our goal is to provide practical, engaging content that supports you without expectations. Whether you're feeling disconnected from traditional religion or simply exploring what faith means in your life, we're here to walk alongside you. No matter where you are on your journey of faith, we're glad you're here. Welcome to Together for Good. Welcome, everybody, to the Together for Good podcast. I'm sitting here in the Bethany Library with Reverend Laurie Jeddeloh. Say hello, Laurie.
Hello.
Laurie was so kind. She came up to me one Sunday and said, hey, I would love to come on your podcast and talk a little bit about my work. And if you ever say that to me, then you will be on the podcast very soon. I'm so glad you did that. And super glad you're here because this is going to be a really interesting conversation. Laurie, you are the Director of Pastoral Care at Skyridge Medical Center. I got that correct?
Well, right now they've changed the name, so it is HCA Health One Skyridge.
Okay. HCA Health One Skyridge. There's a lot of naming rights in there that I won't get. That's not the nature of our conversation.
No, and that's 1 year old, so you can see. You have grace.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I might not have even been there since they changed the name. But you have been in that role for 25 years. And you're an ordained Lutheran pastor, but this is just kind of the interesting thing is that Lutheran pastors can do a whole bunch of different things. Mm-hmm. And you did previously serve a congregation before all this, right?
I actually served three.
Three before starting at Skyridge. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll get to all that. We have plenty to talk about. But first and foremost, I want you to tell us a little bit about the work that you do there. What does it mean to be the Director of Pastoral Care at a major medical center like this?
So that's a really good question, and it's a really there are a lot of things I could say with that, Nate.
As is always the case with pastoral ministry, right?
Exactly.
What do you do all day, Nate? Yeah.
Yes. Some days you can come home and say, what did I do today? Yeah. But as the director, I started out as the director when the hospital was born 23 years ago, and I was the founding director of pastoral care. I was part-time. And the position has grown since then. I now have 7 PRN chaplains. So they are on-call people who help cover nights and weekends on call for emergencies. And then I am still the director, which means as my staff has expanded, I have more administrative work to do.
Yeah.
In healthcare also, you have to have people on committees in order to make sure that all the policies and government standards are being followed. And so I've found myself on a lot of different committees for safety, or I'm on the Denver area breast cancer committee. I'm on the Skyridge Cancer Committee. I have been on the employee advisory group.
What's your least favorite committee you've ever been on?
That's a good question. One of the hard ones for me, which I enjoy, but it's always hard, and it's, again, this week, is our clinical ethics committee.
I was wondering if ethics was going to be a part of it. Yeah.
That has been part of my role from the very beginning.
Wow.
I lead and manage that committee.
Good for you.
So I do that with my co-chair is a wonderful retired physician, and it's been a great committee, but it is a lot of work this week. It's every other month I do that.
Yeah.
We've been responsible for the patient rights policies, for any ethical issues that come up in the hospital where families and staff or families and patients or staff and whoever it is don't agree, have different opinions.
Yeah.
So we work with those situations. We also, through that committee, I also work with Donor Alliance and the Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Bank for tissue and organ donation.
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so much that's involved with that.
There's a lot involved with
Now
that.
tell me too, as a Lutheran clergy person, how much of your theological training and background do you feel like comes into that? Right? Because in the same sense, I'm sure it's not a Lutheran hospital. We've got one of
No.
those in Littleton.
Yeah.
But what level of your religious lens
Yeah.
comes into play in those committee meetings and discussions?
Oy. It's a hard one because I'm so grateful that I am Lutheran. I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I had how many years? Maybe almost 15 years of pastoral ministry before going into chaplaincy, because I know how to work with volunteers. I know the sacraments are important to me.
Yeah.
I have a strong sense of my own theology and how that's at play in all sorts of situations: grief, death, illness. I do a chapel service every week, and sometimes I call it McChurch because it's only 15 minutes.
It's bite-sized. Okay.
Yes, it's bite-sized, but it gives me a little chance to keep thinking as a pastor too.
Yeah.
And
Because that's a little different, isn't it?
That's a little
thinking as a pastor versus thinking as a chaplain.
it is, and that I purposely this Lent called it the Jesus journey, because I decided I need to think more as a Christian pastor, because so much of what I do is ecumenical.
Sure.
Even the services are more ecumenical focused most of the time. But
Makes sense.
this
Yeah.
time I focused on Jesus and some of his parables and stories.
I really appreciate that, because I'm sure that's part of the dance and the balance. It was kind of like what I was hinting at with that question about the ethics board too, is it's an ecumenical space.
Yes.
And you've got people who aren't Christian who are in the
Yes.
hospital there that you care for, I'm sure. And yet you also have your own core convictions that are really important to you. And just the balance of that seems fascinating.
It is. It's fascinating because you can't. I always tell my volunteers even that the quickest way to get fired in my department is to go in the hospital and proselytize.
Yeah.
You cannot push your own values and beliefs on people. We are there to help them with where they are and what they need for their walk of faith during that time of illness. But I definitely have some opinions as far as what's healthy, and what might be destructive spirituality. And I try to watch that when I'm working with people or helping others.
Let's hear more about that. What do you think? What is destructive spirituality as you see it? You don't need to name names or anything about like where you.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think
I'm
where
just curious.
people tend to blame themselves for
Yeah.
all of their illness. What did I do wrong? Why do I have this illness? I try to have them be gentle on that instead
Yeah.
of blaming themselves, because some of the illnesses we get are partly because of the choices we've made. Sometimes it's chance, and a lot of times chance weaves its way through anyway. So to be more focused on how are you going to approach this illness? How can you take care of yourself? How can you take care of your family in it? How can you be as healthy as possible through this, and rather than continue to look over your shoulder and say, why did I get this? Why?
I think it's so interesting. It seems this is just the age-old question.
Yeah.
And it's something about our human minds that always leads us to think that it's transactional like that. And I think of just the gospel reading from this past Sunday, where it's the man who's born blind, and the people are asking, like, who sinned? Like, was it this man or his parents?
Oh, yeah, that's a
Right?
That was on my mind. Yes. Who sinned? Yes.
This man or the parent. And Jesus kind of like, what are you doing? This is not how it works.
Yeah.
But we still do that all the time. Even though there seems to be so much biblical evidence that's trying to encourage us to think about these things differently. And yet that's always, you end up there. It's just like, God,
Right.
why are you letting this happen? What did I do wrong? Why am I deserving of this?
I tend to with some of the traumas or the sad things, when people go there, I don't stop them from, because that's part of grief too, is that you're grieving and you're in shock and angry and upset. But I also say, this is one of those signs to me that it's not heaven on this earth.
Yeah.
And to let that rest a little bit, that bad stuff happens. And it's not heaven on this earth. So that is more of, and it's true
really
to what I
profound.
believe too, because there's just a lot of bad stuff happens. And we, as Americans, as Western people, first world country, we have a lot of good things in our lives.
Yeah.
But it's still not heaven, and bad stuff happens. Yeah. So I kind of got off on a tangent there.
I think that's I just think it's so important, and it's so relevant, because I'm sure you're encountering those types of questions all the time. Like, I get those questions in my office maybe like twice a year, whereas you're hearing this as a chaplain, I'm guessing far more frequently than that.
Yeah.
Just because you're showing up while people are in the worst situation of their life a lot of the time.
Right.
So how do you try and approach it? Like, I think this would be interesting. I have a general sense. I did my unit of clinical pastoral education, so I got to be a chaplain for 6 months. So I have they train us in a certain way of how to show up.
Yeah.
But I think it would be interesting for the listeners to just kind of hear, like, yeah, what's your mindset heading into a room, and how do you approach, right? You're a stranger. You don't know these people most of the time. And yet you're supposed to come and provide pastoral care and spiritual reassurance, or whatever flowery language we want to put around it. So how do you approach that? Give us a sense of your mindset walking into a room and what you're trying to do in that moment.
Well, I think there's always the place to pause, to say your prayers. Lord, how do you want me to be used as I go in here? And how are you going to use me, and help me to listen for what the needs are?
Do you do that every time before walking in a room?
It may not be always that long, but there's a pause. There's I call it kind of a sacred pause. Yeah, just okay. Let me not go in here like a bull in a china closet, but remember that God's going in here, and that I have a job to do, and it's to help to see what the spiritual needs of this room are. So you go in there, and I think a lot. I love it because I never wanted to do evangelism as a pastor. I was a little nervous about that. Like, go knock on doors and all that. Really, that's what we do, is we go in there as evangelists in a way. Just go in there and, how are you doing? I want to check in on you and see if there's anything that you need from spiritual care today. And I bring the Midwest in me a little bit. I say, well, it's a beautiful day out today. Why are you in the hospital rather than outside having lunch at a nice outdoor restaurant or whatever, my golf course, whatever my line is at that point. So I usually kind of joke with them a little bit. That I try to use some humor there, and then I'll ask them questions of, do you have a faith background? Is there any way that anyone that we can call a church, a home faith community, we can let know that you're here? And it's funny because a lot of times people don't have a home church, and they'll say, well, I really should be going to church. And, I did grow up as Lutheran, but and I said, don't worry, I'm not the church police.
Yeah.
But we find that you're sick, you need to rest. I'm happy to call them and let your pastor, your priest, your imam, your rabbi, whoever know that you're here, so that you can get spiritual support from them.
I mean, and I know you do that for us at Bethany all the time.
Well, and you call me and let me know when
Right,
Bethany
okay, go
members
check
are,
on that. Yeah, it's a really good mutual
it's
connection.
wonderful. Yeah. And as a former pastor, well, I still am a pastor, but in a parish, I know how important it is to be able to let you know as a pastor that, you know what, someone from Bethany's here,
Yeah.
and they've said that they would welcome a visit, or they want to be included on the prayer list or whatever. So I encourage my team, please ask, do they have a home church? And we're not, and if you have to say we're not the church police, say it. We're just trying to help you get the very best spiritual care while you're here. And I also learned, I was a pastor at a large church in Minneapolis, and my day to do visits was Wednesdays. So I'd have to go to all these different hospitals in Minneapolis. And sometimes we would know that someone was in the hospital on Wednesday morning, and I would call, but then I'd call the hospital, yes, they're still on the census. So by Wednesday afternoon, I'd get there, I'd drive across town.
And they're not there anymore.
They're not there.
Discharged, yep.
Yes. And so I have learned in this to ask the patient, would you like a visit from your parish or your home church? Yes. Do you know when you'll be discharged? Can I get your cell phone number so your pastor can call you?
And make sure you're still here, yeah.
Yeah. And I really believe in pastors and priests and imams and rabbis checking in on their folks too, because that's precious time. Yeah. And you know that, how precious it is to be able to visit with people, sit down at their bedside, pray with them. If they want communion, whatever. It's so much different than Sunday mornings or just the busyness of, hi, how you doing? Oh, you're having surgery. Okay, I need to remember that. It's sweet time with the patient, the family, and it also is part of the aftercare. When they've seen their pastor in the hospital, it just is something sweet when they come home again.
Yeah, and it's in those sacred moments, it tends, at least in my experience, to also be the places where you have the conversations about God, about human frailty, all of these big topics that just don't come up in the day-to-day life of the congregation very often. Maybe I'll touch on it in a sermon,
right?
But I won't sit down with someone and say like, hey, like, what do you think about this? But when they're in that hospital bed and they're worried about eternity or whatever else, it opens up new doors to have the really important conversations, I think.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the time it's just kind of like shaking their hand like, hey, have a great week. So glad you're here today.
Right.
That's so often the quick interaction that happens at church. Yeah. So do you have a story or a moment that you can kind of remember from your career where you really felt like your presence made a difference? Like where you really went home and like, this was, I asked this question because my memory, I'll give you a chance to think. My memory of my time as a chaplain, those 6 months of training that are part of every pastor's preparation, is that there were so many days where I'm like, I don't know what I did today. Like I was there, I showed up, I visited a ton of people. I don't know if I helped at all. And granted, I was not nearly as, I was still figuring things out.
Yeah.
And I was going in like a bull in a china shop sometimes. Or just like a really naive 20-year-old. I forget how old I was when I was doing this, but I wasn't old. Somewhere in my 20s.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, do you have any memories of times where you're like, no, like that really, I really feel like that was impactful?
Nothing specific, although I do have a lot of memories of times when people were grateful for a chaplain and grateful that we were there. And, the stories kind of flow together, but I've written a service of blessing and commendation for a fetal demise, so for a baby that's died. And so to be able to do that, offer that blessing and naming and commendation, it's really a powerful short period of time, again, where families can hear that Jesus loves their baby and that they are in the Lord's hands, even though that baby has died. So that's a powerful time.
Yeah.
And then to be with families in traumas and deaths. I remember there's many times when you think about your presence made a difference in helping them through a very difficult time, even though I would have much rather been able to heal that person.
Yeah,
change it.
absolutely.
But yet you say, what can I do to make this the hardest day of their lives a little bit better? Feel like they were cared for and surrounded during that time.
Yeah.
And I remember one lady one time, one of our nurses, she's funny, she said, "You need to get down here. I think this lady is waiting for a prayer before she dies. And she just won't die."
Oh my gosh.
It was funny. It was an ICU one. And she just was kind of hanging on, and, and she wasn't getting better. It was an elderly lady. So I came down there and I did our commendation prayer. And just as I was finishing it, she died. And I turned to the nurse and I said, "What did you do to her?"
Yeah, no kidding.
She goes, "No, you did it. I told you she needed a prayer to go."
Yeah. And isn't that the case so often?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So
I mean,
that's a few of those.
No, I appreciate that. What's interesting too is that I'm guessing there's just so many that you can't pick out one in particular.
Well, I think it's like parish ministry in some ways too, that you hope that you've made a difference in people's lives. You hope that faith has grown, that would be for you. Can you name some specific things? Not so much, but you hope that you've planted the seeds, that you've been faithful in what you've done. And so I try not to take too much of a look at, wow, boy, did I have a banner day, because then you're going to look at the days and go, oh, was that a terrible day?
I know. Yeah, I can see that, especially in your particular realm of ministry, how, you could feel, if you start trying to catalog it or keep score,
right?
Yeah, that's just not a good idea.
Well, and today would have been one of those days where, well, I got nothing done. I was working on administrative stuff, so...
Yeah, but that's so important to keeping the whole hospital running. And I'm just so grateful to know that that Skyridge has put you in charge of the ethics committee, that they would look to a clergy person to help lead that. Really says a lot about the philosophy and the commitments of that place.
Yeah.
That they would want someone with theological training helping lead and foster those conversations.
Thank you. And that was what you alluded to before. And I do appreciate a lot of hospitals do have a chaplain who is one of the leaders of the ethics committee, because I think they understand that we are trained and maybe a little gifted at the messy issues of life and how to help come to some positive resolution, help families mediate, families and staff. But
we clergy get a bad rap a lot of the time in the wider world, and people just think that we're just these crazy zealots who are just only focused on proselytizing all the time. And I don't know about you. I mean, especially our Lutheran education is just so robust and nuanced.
Yeah.
Like our seminary training, I always talked about it. I worked in seminary admissions for a time, and I said, like, it's sort of like a liberal arts degree, only it's a master's level degree, because you get like church history, and you get homiletics, which is like speech writing, and you get theology and philosophy and pastoral care and literature, just in the study of biblical literature, right? Like it's very
that's true,
diverse and nuanced, and how that forms us to step into a lot of situations in the world, I think, really well equipped to offer a pretty robust and open perspective, especially something as important as hospital ethics. Like, how are we going to treat our patients and our staff? I'm sure that's part of it as well. And how are we going to care for them carefully?
Yes. How do we care for them? And when they're under some type of distress because of a moral issue or an ethical issue that is going on there. You're right. Yeah. And then I did, my background in college I was a business major.
No way. Oh, I didn't know that.
So it does help.
Where'd you go to undergrad?
Luther College in Decorah, Iowa. There you go. It's on there
good
today.
School.
Yes. But yeah, that has helped me. And I have, when I was interviewing as the director's job, I said, you're not getting a chaplain who is coming in with no experience. I have had 15 years of parish ministry. I've done weddings and funerals, and I have done a lot of public speaking. I have I have worked with a lot of volunteers in my career. I was a business major, so the details are important. So I can count beans with the best of them too.
And you're so right. Like parish ministry is just so weird.
Yeah.
And the random places you end up and the things that you have to do that you weren't necessarily trained for, but you figure it out.
You figure it out. And clinical ethics, that was a steep learning curve. But of course, opening a hospital was for all of us. Yeah.
No kidding.
How to do that.
I want to hear about that. How did you end up in on the ground floor of starting that hospital? Like, did you know someone related to it? They're like, hey, let's reach out to Laurie, or did you apply? What was it?
So so that would be part of another talk, or I'll give you a little bit.
7 podcasts.
Seven podcasts, because you haven't talked about my call and how this
we got to get there,
because that's very important too. But when we first moved to Denver, we ended up at Bethany. And I was also trying to figure out what was I going to do in parish ministry, and started looking around. And the job that I found, and I really do believe it was a calling, was the first one was to be an on-call emergency chaplain for Children's Hospital.
Okay, wow.
And a friend of mine at Bethany said the week before, she said, hey, I know you're looking for a job, and I saw this job opening at Children's Hospital. And I had just seen a TV show about chaplains at the bedside in a hospital with children, and I went, oh shoot, this God must be working in my heart.
Kidding.
I just knew that was
That's such a good reaction. Yeah, when the call is really clear, usually your reaction is, oh shoot.
Yeah. Here it goes. And so I first began as the on-call at Children's Hospital, and I knew that I would either hate it or something in it I'd find very valuable. That you'd have to go back to who I was as a youth. I'll tell you more about that at another point. But I did that for 2 years, from 2001 to 2003. And during that time, I was also an interim minister at one of our local churches at Holy Shepherd in Lakewood.
Oh, yeah.
And then I realized I applied for a position as a chaplain at one of our hospitals, and they said, no, you need to have 4 units of CPE, not just 1. So I thought, I'm really enjoying, or I'm really touched by this chaplaincy ministry. So I guess I better check and see about getting more education. So wouldn't you know, at University Hospital, someone had just quit at the end of their first unit, and they needed someone to fill the group, and that would be units 2, 3, and 4. I'd already had 1 unit in seminary, so I stepped into that to get all 4 units.
Wow.
And just as I was finishing, a friend of mine told me we all started looking for job openings, and a friend of mine told me that Skyridge was opening. And so I put in an application, and I got the job.
Oh my gosh. And then got to be a part of
got to be a part. Starting it, yes.
Because this was also, Lone Tree itself got sort of built up.
Oh, it was
nothing at that point, right?
No, it was pasture. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was so fun to be able to, instead of driving from our house in Southeast Aurora to the old university, which is city, I got to go from our house through a lot of farm areas down to Lone Tree, and it was.
And now those are all developments.
Yeah. Yep.
It's grown a ton.
Kind of back in the city again, but yeah.
Well, that's interesting. But what I also want to hear about, and I guess kind of in there, you sort of discerned through these like weird set of circumstances, like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing parish ministry, or God's calling me away from that. What was that like, especially at first, having had 15 years in this career, which, my 15th year anniversary of ordinations this summer. Yeah, it'll be 15 years this summer.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting. But I just think about like, this is all I know.
Yeah.
And how seismic that would be to make that shift. Because I really feel like I'm an experienced pastor at this point.
Yep.
15 years is a substantial amount of time. And to then, shift out of that. What was that like for you? Did you miss it at first? Do you ever miss it? Or, I mean, clearly not so much that you'd go back to it 25 years later. You're still,
right.
Doing the chaplain thing.
Yeah. That makes 40 years this year, by the way.
For you, 40 years anniversary.
And I remember at 15 years, like you, looking at those people that had 40 years and going, you guys are old.
I wasn't going to say that. I only say that to Pastor Gary. I only say it to Pastor Gary.
Well, I'm old. Yeah. You can say it. But it was a change. My early years in ministry, I mean, I kind of struggled with them as most young pastors do.
Absolutely.
Trying to figure out, how do I preach? What have I got myself into? I remember thinking, I'm trying to preach to people that have, 25, 30 years on me. They have thought about their faith. They have walked the life of faith for so much longer than me. What kind of word do I have to say to them? So it was, I was humbled real quickly as a young pastor, thinking, what word do I have to give to these people? It was fun to be able to preach without a lot of programming. So I was kind of I did this. I was in a rural area for my first call. I was in the metropolitan area for my second call. I did Lutheran Family Services for a little bit of that.
My gosh, you've done it
third.
all. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I came here, I started looking at churches or parish ministry again. And I remember at that point asking Pastor Wayne Weisenbuehler, I said, what is there for part-time ministry in this synod? Because my daughter is still only 5. And he said, well, good luck. You and every other, second pastor are looking for part-time calls. And it was kind of funny because I went, oh, okay.
What's funny is now there's a lot of part-time calls and not a lot of full-time calls.
That's true. But I didn't, I do miss parts of parish ministry. I enjoy preaching more now because I don't have to have all the answers. I can be authentic and I'm old now. So I kind of go, well, you youngsters, you didn't have to have all the answers. You'll
figure it out.
You'll figure it out. Yeah. And I still love working with people. I love the people parts of ministry, and I have a healthy, enjoyment of the administrative part too. So that has always been, it's always good for pastors if you like a lot of things, because if you don't, you really do need to pigeonhole yourself. Yeah.
And it's too, the field is just so strange. There's so many pieces that are needed, right?
Yes.
As a chaplain or as a parish pastor, that you can't ever just say, like, no, like I'm just the preacher.
Right.
Sorry. There's 6 other days in the week. And there's other things we got to do. Yeah. All the stuff's got to get done. Well, my final question, and you knew this one was coming because this is what I ask everybody. But again, thanks for just sharing all this. It's so fun to listen to, and we'll definitely have you back to kind of dig into some of these other pieces a little more. But in a world where, people are not connected with church, like, why have you chosen to stay involved? And kind of related to that, I'm guessing you grew up going to church, that this is a pretty big part of your youth. If you went to Luther College and then on Luther Seminary too?
Luther Seminary. Yeah. Yep, because I couldn't spell anything else.
Spelling is not needed to be a pastor. That's right. But why do you think church still matters?
Because faith matters, and my relationship with Christ has always been central in my life. It hasn't always been easy, but it has been just what grounds me, what gives me focus and purpose. It's my North Star. My faith is my North Star and my guidance. And I still come because I believe that this is the best way to, you can't be a Christian without community. And I believe that being in communion with the people of God is important. Yeah, we may not always get along, but I just think it's the best. We learn from each other. We grow together. We share each other's stories and sorrows and joys. And when we had the time of COVID, I really missed people.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So I come because faith. I change at different times in my life too. You know, you grow in your story and you grow in understanding. And I know that I'm going to think about faith and God in a slightly different way as I get older, but that's so important. I don't know. Yeah. It just.
And there's so much, what I love about your response, the community piece, in that, yeah, as we get older, our understanding of things changes just inherently. Like different life experiences impacts what you believe and how you believe.
It does.
And so to be in a community where that's constantly happening for everyone, there's so much to learn from each other, and there's so much to carry together. And yeah, I'm completely with you. Just that faith is made whole in community, and we have so much. There's such a gift of being involved in a bigger place.
Yes, and I also want to add that I love our pastors. And
I paid her to say that.
There you go. I love our pastors. I'm amazed too as I sit here, and I've just been thinking about it the last year because I'm getting close to to retirement, and I sit and listen and I go, I'm learning new things as I listen to that, that parable or that story.
Yeah.
And I take notes on Nate's sermons, so I just want you to know that.
Laurie's always super kind, because you don't do it every week, which is also how I know you really mean it. But she'll text me once in a while and be like, that was a really good sermon. Thank you so much for this. And that means the world, because Laurie knows what she's talking about. So from other people, it's also kind, and I appreciate it. But it's like, no, this is this is someone who's been educated and doing this for far longer than me. So
no, you're too kind. You're too kind. No, you are a wonderful preacher. And I love how authentic you are.
Thanks.
And how you share yourself with us. And your humor, that's been such a gift. So I come also because it's enjoyable, And Bethany is a wonderful congregation, not only for the pastors, but also for our music and for what we can do in the community. So there's, I'm rooted in Bethany too. It's not just a matter of coming to church. This is my home, and this is a place that I love. And I miss it when I'm not there. Although some weeks I do, especially if it's been a hard work week, I am tempted to sit and drink coffee and watch it.
And watch the live stream.
Watch the live stream.
And go to the golf course afterwards, too.
Yes,
I know
exactly.
You're a big golfer.
Or at least try to convince my husband that 8:30, come on. Please, 10 o'clock today.
It is early, especially on daylight savings time.
Yes,
oh, my goodness.
Yes. But thank you. Thank you for being part of what draws me to church. God has placed you at Bethany, and your ministry is really important there, Nate. And so
thanks,
I am
Laurie.
so grateful
really
to have you. You are a messenger of the gospel. So
no, I love being here, and I love all the things you mentioned. Just it's such a special place that we get to be a part of each and every week, and the music and the staff and the community. I love it. I love it a lot.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking time to come and chat. Let's do it again sometime.
Sure. That sounds great.
Let's do it again sometime. This has been great. And thank you, friends and family and people of Bethany, for listening to this podcast. As always, stay in peace. Thank you for listening to the Together for Good podcast. If you'd like more resources for your walk of faith, please visit our website, bethany-denver.org, or download our mobile app by searching Bethany Connect in your phone's app store.